I was hoping y'all would have better things to do tonight. I know that. I'm Dean. I'm an alcoholic. Well, we'll just get started. I was born, in 1974, believe it or not, in Port Arthur, Texas. Some of the stories I've heard, here in the past, there's a lot of childhood trauma, and that's one thing I've enjoyed learning or getting to know in AA, is that no matter where we come from or our backgrounds, that doesn't matter. I grew up, my parents were together. They're still together to this day. I have a pretty tight-knit family. Needless to say, I was the black sheep. Not so much in that, I wasn't a part of, but just for my, my actions and what I let myself get into. Like I said, I grew up in Port Arthur till I was probably 14 or 15 years old. I was raised in the church. I have to say this for Corey, a Pentecostal church at that. So I don't know if, didn't have a TV in my house till I was probably, the Gulf War was when the TV was cut on at my house. So it's a little different. So that ended up being a big resentment for me once I found out what resentments actually were. But anyway, growing up, I had nothing traumatic happen as far as making me go the direction I did. It was, I guess you'd say, peer pressure. The first time I, got into drugs and alcohol, I do remember this. I was 13 years old and I dropped a hit of acid. And that was the first drug I ever did, believe it or not. And it was an experience. And from that point, I guess I would call that 13 through when I graduated was, I was partying, and did a lot of stuff in between there as far as alcohol and drugs. I didn't get into any trouble like legally or with the law as a kid. Probably should have, but I never did. So I graduated, I graduated in 1992. And after that, I started working at UPS in 92. And, kept partying. It was still fun. I was still having fun. Still, there were no consequences. I wasn't getting caught doing anything. I wasn't, getting in any kind of trouble. I was just, having fun. Let me go back to my parents real quick. I never, ever saw my parents drink or take a drug. So I had no influence from them. Anyway, after I graduated and I went to work at UPS, I kept, that party lifestyle until, I don't know, let's say early 2000s. I got married. Well, let me go back. I got married in 1998 to my first wife. I wanted to say this before I started. I was looking back. I've been sober for, I think it was a year today, a year and 5 months and 12 days today. And I was sitting in the car thinking, I have 3 kids that were born in 2002, 2005, and 2007, excuse me. And all 3 of my kids have never seen me sober until now. Now, I wasn't, raging and, just a full-blown drug addict or anything, But that's funny that, there's people in my life, important people, that hadn't seen me sober until now. I'll come back to that later. But anyway, well, I just told you when my kids were born, never seen me sober. Anyway, I had to write down some dates because I'm horrible with that. I have to call my oldest daughter to find out if it's my mom or dad's birthday. Moving on up to 2005, well, when we're reading, starting the meeting, it says, I love the part that says alcohol and other drugs, because I'm that other drugs. Alcohol, to me, and I've told some of the guys here, I don't see how, I am alcoholic, no doubt. But alcohol was never my go-to or my thing. I always, pain pills became the love of my life. Hydrocodone, any kind of pain pill. And that started before I was married the first time, but it wasn't a problem. It was still fun, and I functioned fully, and thought I was functioning, highly functioning. Looking back now, at one point I was functioning highly. I know I was, but it was functioning very highly. And driving a UPS truck, if you can imagine that. Never had an accident, never had a consequence from that yet. In 2005, I wrote down that pain pills really became my go-to, and anything else, I didn't want it. I didn't want alcohol because that would ruin my pain pill buzz, It would bring me down. It would make me angry. 2008, I got separated from my first wife. So here we go. Things start, But still, those aren't consequences, right? That didn't make me want to stop or anything. From 2008 until 2013, I was separated from my wife. I lived with my parents, with my kids there every other weekend. Still hiding this from everybody up until this point, too. My first wife never knew back then. I say she never knew, you know how we are. My parents never knew. My family never knew. I had close friends that, we'd go out, they'd be drinking, and they'd be wondering why I wouldn't be drinking and having such a good time. They didn't know. Or I thought they didn't know. So between 2008 and 2013, I started dating a lady I worked with or a girl I worked with at UPS. In 2013, we got married after I was divorced from my first wife. And that's another person that didn't know me sober until, April of 2023. And when I say sober, it's like, we say sober, going 30 days without nothing in my body. From the age of 13 until 49, there's not a 30-day period that I didn't go without something in my body, That's crazy. That's crazy. In 2015 is when I first needed pain pills to function every day. I couldn't get up. I couldn't go to work if I didn't have some pills in my pocket. And anywhere I was, family functions, work, church, it didn't matter where I was. I had a pocket full of pills. And a lot of that stemmed from, when I was younger, maybe not having a high self-esteem or wanting to fit in. Those pills made me do that. And, or I thought at the time they did, or they did at the time. But it wasn't the right kind of self-confidence. I know that now. In 2015, when I said I started needing pain pills to function. In 2016, I got in a bad wreck in a personal vehicle coming back from Garner State Park. A big John Deere tractor pulled out in front of us with a big till on the back, and I mean, we T-boned it, right? My son was in the back seat. He was probably 6 or 7 at the time, I guess. And my brother was driving. I was in the front seat. Messed my hand all up. And the first thought I had in my mind after I had that wreck was, I'm going to get a bunch of pain pills. I mean, I'm being honest. That was insane. Between 2015 and 2018, I still at UPS, still functioning, and I started making good money at UPS, but not enough to support, a $100 and $150 a day pill habit without somebody finding out. So that time I think I've maybe told 2 people in this room this, but UPS ships everything, right? And I started. I found out what boxes had pills in them, and I started taking pills from work, And I did that for probably, I don't know, about 3 years, because in 2018, I got caught doing that. And that was the first time I suffered any kind of consequence for all my actions for years and years of doing what I shouldn't have been doing. And luckily, what I got caught with was a small. Let me go back. I realize now how this was such alcoholic behavior. I would have pills, bottles of like 500 and something, and I thought. I would go sell them to my guy that I would buy pills from, right, for a very discounted price. I'd sell them to him, and I'd keep me a bottle, right? And when that bottle was gone, instead of keeping that bottle I sold to him, I'd go back and pay full price to him. So that, that's just not right thinking. In 2017, I was 43 or 44. I'd take pills every day to go to work, take some to go to sleep at night, maybe a different type of pill to go to sleep at night. But I remember a guy came up to me, and we were fixing to leave. He was a good friend of mine, too, and fixing to leave out in the morning to go out. And I told him, I said, Chris, I need some help, man. I got too many stops or whatever. And he looked right at me and he goes, yeah, you need help. You need a doctor. And I was like, what? It's like, what's this guy talking about? And he was the first one to really call me out on, he saw a problem when I thought I was hiding it from everybody. And so needless to say, I went to rehab for the first time in 2017, not knowing anything about AA, anything about rehab at all. And I wasn't honest. I wasn't honest about it. I do know that. I went to a place in Kemah called Kemah Palms. And it was first I went to detox, right, for 4 or 5 days. And, when I was in detox, I remember talking to some of the people in there. And I'm like, no, I'm just going to be here 4 or 5 days. And I'm going to detox. I'm going to go home. Well, after 4 or 5 days, they take you and they talk to you about going to the 30-day house next door. And so I gave in to that, and insurance was paying for all this, so it wasn't a big deal. And so I went over there and stayed there for 30 days. They take you to meetings every night, and I thought I was doing the right thing. I wasn't drinking, wasn't taking no pills. I was sober. So after 30 days, I get this little certificate, hold it up. I got my picture taken. It's probably still on the wall over there. But I went home, and of course, I lied to my kids at that point. I told them I was out of town working. I didn't want anybody to find out. I didn't want to let them know who I really was. So I kept it from my kids, my brothers, my close family knew. But I'll never forget, I got home, my brothers were there, a good friend of mine, and when I got there, they were all there waiting on me. We had a whatever, and I remember I drank a beer that day because I thought I was a drug addict. I wasn't an alcoholic. And knowing what I know now, I know that's that wasn't smart. That wasn't what I should have been doing. And but anyway, after that, I got caught stealing pills. I always say taking pills. Stealing sounds so bad. I was a thief too. They let me retire from UPS with I had 25 years there, 22 years driving. Luckily, I was able to retire. Didn't get any kind of legal trouble, even with that. That was they told me if I resigned, I could keep my retirement, and if I resigned, they wouldn't press charges. So, got out of it again. There I go. Nothing, no consequences really, other than losing my job I'd had for 25 years. Anyway, and right after that, I have a brother that works at Grace Church here in Humble. So I've always had people, what do you call it? Not that I manipulate them, which I did. I did manipulate people. But what do you call it when somebody's enables me? And so it wasn't 2 days after I lost my job at UPS. He's like, "Hey, man, I get you a job at the church." I'm like, "Me working at the church? Okay." So I went into what they call plant management, which is basically maintenance and doing stuff around the church. That part, nothing. I wasn't up there speaking or anything. So I stayed good for a little while there, and not very long. And started back into my old habits, taking pills. And I ended up losing my job there for being unreliable, pretty much. I mean, just, if I didn't have pills, I didn't go to work. That was the deal. So lost that job, put my brother didn't put him in a jam, but it sure made me feel. It's one of the amends I had to make was to him. So I went back to rehab in 2020, and this was he tried to help me. My brother did. This rehab was in San Angelo, and it was all faith-based, and it was a goat ranch. Literally, it was a goat ranch. And we stayed in a double-wide trailer, 5 guys out in the middle of nowhere. And you go out and when I say that, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm sure that kind of rehab has helped many people, but it didn't do much for me. I actually got high while I was there. The guy running the place was getting high. Took me, a couple of days to figure that out. It doesn't take long. And there was no supervision other than the guy that was getting high in his trailer. So I stayed there for 2 months, and couldn't wait for my wife to come pick me up from there. And, of course, I was feeding her a line of bull that, everything was better. Got home. I stayed sober for maybe a month or two. And mind you, I'm jobless now when I come back, so I'm looking for a job. I'm doing stuff. And that was in 2020, right? So I have right down here, August 2020 through April of 2023, I just wrote down hard time. I didn't go to prison, but I probably would have been better off. I guess I got really depressed. When my wife would go to work every morning, this was my day. I would get up and I would get in my truck and I'd drive and I'd ride around to these stores and see what I could put in my pocket, and take it to the pawn shop, get enough money that day, to go get what I needed. And I did that for I was either doing that or laying on the couch watching the ID channel for probably 2 years, close to 2 years. And it's every day. I didn't have a pot to piss in, right? But I still had a home, so I didn't think, I hadn't lost everything yet. So I was doing okay, I thought. Meanwhile, my relationships with family and friends, I didn't have any. I had friends, but I wouldn't answer the phone when they called. I wouldn't even answer the phone when my parents would call. And steady, my wife and I are doing like this. But she'd still come home, she still cooked, she'd gripe all the time, but hey, as long as I had somewhere to lay down, I was good. During that time, I've done what every drug addict has done. I had the bright idea I needed to make some money, so I was going to become a handyman. And so I got a lot of, it's funny though, I started making good money. I put a little ad on OfferUp and had people calling me, and I was making decent money and still was taking pills and going in people's houses, and you know where that led. Not to a good place, but still no consequence, During that time, like I said, I would see whatever I could put in my pocket, take to the pawn shop when I wasn't working. At one time, there was one pawn shop I'd go to, and I'd go in there almost every day, every other day, bringing him stuff. And one day he told me, he said, "Man, do you know like over half the stuff in here you brought in?" And I started looking around, and it's like I won't. Yeah, that was eye-opening, but I didn't stop. During that time, I was just existing. Like I've heard some people say, I had no life at all. I was just existing. So early in 2023, I got caught by my father-in-law taking some of his pills. And he's older, he's sick, and that's sad to say, man. But I'm trying to be honest. And he told me, he said, I'm not going to tell Elizabeth, my wife. I'm not going to tell her. He said, but so I'm going to give you about 3 days to let her know yourself, or you find you some help before I tell her. So I'm like, well, I got 3 days. So I laid on the couch for 3 days, and he told her, and then she come to me and said, you gotta go figure something out. So that was the first time that I hadn't really faced a consequence to all my actions, as far as legally, family wise, anything really, anything. I wish it would have happened long before that, but it didn't. So I guess it was early first week of April, maybe, or whatever. She got me a hotel room, and mind you, all during this time after I went to rehab the second time, I had people trying to help me. And just like everybody says, I didn't think I needed help. I thought eventually, no, I could do it on my own. I always had, even from when I graduated, my partying days, I always had these specific, when I graduate college, I'm going to quit partying and straighten up. When I have my first kid, I'm done, Second kid, I'm going to be done. None of those never, they never worked out for me. I'm going to wait till I'm 35, I'm going to stop all this. I'm 40, and then here I am coming to live here, and I'm 49 years old, and it hadn't stopped. So, I was, I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but I had isolated myself for several years. And like I said, I would have almost rather been, locked up or whatever. Essentially, I was. It was worse. So I had a friend. My wife got me a hotel room that first week, and so I had to stand by myself in a hotel. Stayed sober that whole week. I didn't do anything. I had a friend that I had about 2 days left in the hotel. Of course, I'm a procrastinator too. I wait till the last minute to try to get something done. I had a friend I talked to. He's in Africa now. He was over there then, and he called to check on me, so I answered, and he asked me, what I was going to do. I said, I don't know, and he said, well, I might know of somewhere. So, man, that ain't real. Anyway, he gave me the number to the Humble House, and I'll never forget. I called. I didn't call the Humble House. He actually gave me Dante's personal phone number, and I came. I remember calling him. It was a Wednesday, I guess the Wednesday before Easter Sunday. I remember calling him on a Wednesday night. And he answered his phone, and he was fixing to eat some brisket. I'll never forget him telling me that. And he said, well, usually, I like to see you in person and all this stuff before I, commit to you coming into the house. He said, but I got a bed. He said, why don't you show up Sunday morning, Easter Sunday morning, and I'll see what I can do. So that's what got me here. Like I said, I still hadn't, I don't know, thinking back, it's kind of weird that I don't know. Anyway, let's move on. My wife dropped me off here Easter Sunday morning, and that was in 2023. And when she dropped me off, I still didn't know. I knew I didn't want to be in the situation I was in, but I didn't know if I never wanted to get high again or take another drink, I got out of the car and I walked up on the porch, and I don't know, this past Easter 2024, when I came, there was a bunch of people here, but 2023, for some reason, this place looked like that when I walked in, and people everywhere, and I have a bag on my shoulder and really don't even know if I'm going to get to stay here, right? And I walk up, and the first guy I meet is, there's a guy here named Big Richard. Some of these guys remember him, and I walk up there, and he's sitting, he's as nice as can be, but he's got a shaved head, and he's got staples running from about this forehead all the way back here, and he's got staples in his eye. And I'm like, wow, where the hell am I going? He's like, yeah, he said, yeah, I live here. I'm like, oh, shit. Anyway, I came in, and I think Dante said, go to the meeting, we'll talk after that or something. And so I came, I sat down. I think I got a Desire chip that morning. I don't remember. It was a long time ago. But anyway, that's how I ended up here. He let me in, thankfully. So that's pretty much my, how I got here. It was nothing exciting, but it was, looking back on it, when I was writing this stuff in the car, man, it's hard to believe that from the age of 13 to the age of 49, I can't remember having it probably wasn't a 2-week period where I wasn't have something in my body to change the way I felt or to change the way I, acted socially in a group. So anyway, when I came here, I was pretty broken, although I didn't want to show that to nobody because, I'm, guys are supposed to be tough and not show that stuff. But it didn't take long after I got here, started going to some meetings. I started to get, the first thing I remember asking God for, like I said, I was raised in church, so all this God stuff was never a problem for me. I just never had a relationship with Him growing up because it was that, God was always a punishing God. That's the way I was raised. Never and now I know better than that. But I remember one of the first things I asked God for was just give me some peace and serenity and let me sleep through the night. That's another thing, taking pain pills. I don't know if, I'm sure there's somebody out here that's done that. But you don't sleep very well. You don't sleep very well at all. And especially when you have to quit taking them. So I'm like, please let me sleep and give me just a little bit of peace. And that was, I don't know, after about a week here, he gave me that. And I guess that's one of the first, anyway, the first prayer in a long time that I can say, I asked God for something, and, he gave me that. Anyway, when I got here and started going to meetings, I didn't want to say anything. I still don't like to talk. I remember Rusty used to always say, what does it take the cotton, or put the cotton in your mouth, what is it? Take it out of your ears and put it in your mouth. Anyway, well, I had no problem doing that because I just wanted to listen. And I'm glad I did. A lot of people say, you got to jump right in and take off running and, hurry up and get to moving. I didn't do that. And I'm not ashamed to say that I didn't. I had been rushing my whole life, and that didn't work out. So I took it easy. I listened to all you people in here telling me what to do. And I didn't do anything to deserve to be up here. It was y'all did this for me, and this program did this for me, and the Humble House did this for me. I wouldn't be standing here today, if it wasn't for AA or specifically this Humble House. But anyway, slowly, I got a sponsor, first one, and started working the steps. Had no problem with, the first 3 steps. I knew my life. I had got honest with myself in the fact that, there's no way I could lick this alone. There's just, and I would tell that to anybody that lives in the house now or a newcomer. There's, for years and years and years I tried, and I had people telling me, hey, you can't do it alone. Yeah, I can. No, you can't. Yeah, I can. Well, you can't. There's just no way. So, like I said, I got here Easter Sunday. I ended up staying here 9 months, roundabout. And I let things come to me slow. I didn't come in and try to get everything back. My wife didn't leave me. She didn't, what she used to tell me, she goes, I love you, I just do not like you. And, I know a lot of people come in here and, the first thing you want to get everything back, right? And I made a conscious effort once I, cleared my head and dove into what I should be doing, that I wasn't going to do that. I wasn't going to think about, my other rehab stints or, were a month, 2 months. This time I came here and I didn't, I had no plan of leave. I didn't know when I would be leaving. So that was, something I didn't have to boggle my mind with. And I just started doing everything you people told me to do, and find a relationship with my higher power. Started to pray. I'm not perfect, so I didn't do it, every day like I should, I'm sure, but it's something I do now every day. I do know that, and it has made a big difference. During the 9 months I was here, I had my first sponsor that I worked with, we did a lot of, started me on the steps, and then, he's had some health problems, so I got another sponsor, worked my way through the steps, right? Still got a few amends that are hanging over my head that I haven't done, but So one of the biggest things that I'm thankful for being here and being in this program is it giving me a relationship with my higher power, which I call God. It's not somebody, it's my relationship with Him. It's not somebody else telling me what my relationship should be. So today, God is a big part in my recovery, in my life, as well as, keeping a good core of people as far as people in recovery around. Like I said, I did things here when I first got here. You got to pay rent, you got to make things happen. I didn't know how I was going to do that, so I started just doing, whatever came through the door, pretty much. Wasn't worried about. They say, what's that? The fear of economic insecurity will leave us. Well, I had no fear of economic insecurity because I had no income to be scared about. But it's true. I tried to do the next right thing when I didn't know what God's will was. And to be honest, I lied constantly, about everything. And I heard something the other day that says, what did they say? The truth is undefeated, or honesty is undefeated, something like that. And I didn't really understand it. And I thought about it. I'm like, yeah, you don't have to, if you tell the truth, you ain't going to lose. You're not, you be honest, you ain't going to lose. Man, I don't know what else to say. I'm stumped now. Let's go with what my life is like now. Let's say I left here December of 2023. And before I left, I was blessed with a job or an opportunity to work at Humble Sign Company, just like contract-wise, see if things might work out. They were moving, so I said, yeah, I'll do that. Contract worked there with them for, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 months, and then got an opportunity to go full-time, and I'm still there today. That's where I'm at as far as work life. But each and every day I try to, each and every day I do pray. On the way to work sometimes I'll hit my knees, Sometimes if I don't have time, I don't hit my knees. It's not a good practice. But always on the way to work, I'll say a prayer. And I know that, sometimes I was talking to somebody the other day, and it's like, am I really, I never thought I would get to this point of being sober and, slowly but surely getting back to a life that I can somewhat recognize and not be ashamed of, and be able to be counted on, reliable. I thought that was way out of reach. I never sat there in my darkest days and I hear some people say, I didn't want to live anymore. I never got to that point, but I think if I wouldn't have came here when I did, I really don't, it's said all the time, if I didn't come in when I did, I wouldn't be here today or whatever. And I believe that. I used to think people were just, blowing smoke up your butt when they'd say that, but I do believe that in my heart, that if I wouldn't have came here exactly when I did, that I sure wouldn't be standing here, and I might not be here. I might not be alive, let's just say it. So, with that said, again, I want to thank, AA, the Humble House in particular, my sponsor, all the guys I was in the house with. I think that's another important thing, too, for the people that are in the house now. I don't know what it was. It was, I don't know, you call it magical, call it whatever, but it's a good group of guys when I lived here. And some of them still here, some of them aren't. And that's no big deal. I love them all. But I want to personally thank Dante for running this full-grown man daycare, or whatever you want to call it. It's not that way all the time, but he puts up with a lot. I know that, and I'm thankful for each and every, especially the guys I was in the house with. Corey, Alfred, Nick, Billy Ray, Ryan, Dane, Troy. Thanks for taking me to work all them days. I didn't have a car while I was here either, and I made it through here. I think that's all I got. Sorry it wasn't that long, but all right. Thank you.